Hello, welcome to the Women in Data Science series of the Shelley Show. I'm Shailendra, and you're watching this simulcast live on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. I hope you and your family is safe. Every fortnight, like always, we bring the leading ladies of data science to this platform and try to understand their point of view in the world of data science. So if you know any leading lady of data science and you want them to appear here to hear their point of view, then please mention their name in the comment section and I will reach out to them to get them here. Please write your questions that you may have for these ladies and put them in the comment section, and I'll pick all the questions and ask them. So let me not waste any time and quickly bring our guests to you. My first guest is Sreevani Konda, and she is coming all the way from Austin. Sreevani is a thought leader in driving business transformation using data. She has empowered multiple public and private organizations to achieve compliance, adherence, business benefits, and operational efficiencies by providing data strategy and implementing the same. She's the co-founder of Alice Software, which is a data analytics company specializing in enabling self-service analytics. So let me bring her onto the show. Hi, Sreevani.
Oh, hey, Shailendra. Thanks.
How are you?
I'm doing awesome. How are you?
Welcome to the Shelley Show.
Hey, thank you. Yeah.
Would you want to introduce yourself other than what I've said?
Yeah, definitely. I can do a quick introduction. Like, I'm joining the show from Austin, Texas. Here it's midnight now. So good morning, good evening, good night to anybody who is joining the show. As Shailendra explained, I am a co-founder of Alice Software, and we specialize in the self-service analytics solutions for data leaders and ensure that the business is getting the benefit out of the solutions. Okay. And first of all, I really appreciate you organizing this particular session, and glad to be part of it.
And you're working with the Department of Transportation?
Yes, so I am doing a strategic consulting with the Department of Transportation, and prior to that, I was at General Motors, leading a lot of their data initiatives, and Deloitte Consulting for a lot of their public sector engagements as well.
Okay. So give me a minute and let me bring other guests as well. My second guest is Priya Prasad. Priya brings 20 plus years of experience in retail, CPG, and analytics in the analytics industry. In addition to having done leadership roles in the CPG brand management and sales, she has also led the CPG analytics practice across 2 leading organizations in analytics. Her unique strength is for being able to understand analytics from both ends, as she has helped which has helped her deliver impactful, actionable insights to some of the largest CPG retail organizations globally. So let me bring in Priya. Hi, Priya. Hello. Can we get you? She's frozen. Technology sometimes doesn't support you, right? Okay. Hi, Priya. Hi, Priya. Welcome to the Women in Data Science. How are you doing? Technology glitch. Okay, by the time we try to fix that, let's get our third guest. But before I say that, today we've got more than, at the moment, we've got more than 50 people watching us. Guys, one thing I must say, last episode we got 100 likes. So now I expect to beat that record. So if you are watching and if you're liking what you're watching, then please press the like button, like and love button, whatever it is, so that we can beat the last week episode's likes. Okay, for you to view this episode and other sessions that are run on Emerging Technologies live, I would request you to follow me so that you can be alerted when a live session is on. This gives you an opportunity to directly ask questions to the guests, and so please press the follow button on LinkedIn, on Twitter, and subscribe button on YouTube, and press the bell icon. So thank you very much, guys. I've already seen spike in likes, so we've got 15 likes already. Good stuff. And finally, we have Nidhi Pratapneni, who is the Senior Vice President at Wells Fargo, based in Bangalore. She heads the offshore marketing organization and the product analytics and modeling community at Wells Fargo, India and Philippines. She's also involved in driving the organization CSR initiative, campus engagement and internal communications. She's an alumni of St. Stephen's College in Delhi and IIM Calcutta. So let me bring in Nidhi. And where can I see her? I can see her. Yes. Hi, Nidhi.
Hi. Hi, good morning, good evening to all of you out there. It's a pleasure to be on this show, Shelley. Thank you so much for bringing the three of us together.
And I understand that you and Priya know each other from the past as well.
Sorry?
I understand that you and Priya know each other from the
Yes,
past.
yes, yes. We have been colleagues at Antuit. So we worked together for about 1.5 years.
Okay. Priya, can you hear us still? Priya, can you hear us? I think Priya can't hear us. Let's ask.
That's, I think it was better when we were testing, but I'm not sure.
Okay, all three of you, welcome to the Women in Data Science episode 9. Let's very, very quickly start and look at the processes. So when I started my career around about 26 years ago, the processes, the data science processes, were very hit and trial. Do you still see that in your business where you work? Do you see that it's still hit and trial and you're trying to learn from there, or is it that you've got now a structured process that you see to deliver data science? What do you see, Nidhi? Let's start with you.
Yeah, so I think over the 2 decades that I've been involved in analytics, we have really matured as an industry. And you're right, it used to be hit and trial to some extent. But at the core of it, when you look at what you're trying to do, you're trying to solve a problem. And many of us who've come from consulting backgrounds have been trained in a very structured problem-solving approach as well, right? So how you look at a problem, how you break it into parts. There are elements of managing a project, managing a program. I mean, those are the traditional fundamentals that we're using. I think what's happened over the years that we need to build into this process is the variety of tools and technologies. How do you vet them? How do you identify which is the right one for your problem?
Yeah.
How do you also weigh the pros and cons of, should I go in with a very complex statistical approach versus some back of the envelope that will still deliver the right results? So the glamour of using a very high-end data scientist approach, whereas a simpler approach,
Yeah.
those are some of the challenges we deal with. And I think every organization has to figure out their own process of building it out. So there are definitely a lot of recommendations, but it's a journey, and everyone hits upon what works best for them. And it will be different in some COE where you're doing a proof of concept where it's a brand new problem that you're solving. So the whole concept of being able to sift through unstructured data is very new. So while we figured out what to do with structured data, what's the data engineering aspect, how do we work with databases, how do we optimize all of that data extraction, it's a new world where we are now trying to establish those processes in the unstructured data, the social media related data world, where it is okay, we do text mining, but how much of it is really relevant? There was a time when everyone was just getting jazzed up with word clouds, but
Yep.
where do those word clouds even take you? Right, so building in the right approach to say, okay, how do we keep pushing to go beyond to find the right insights out of it? I think so it's all incremental and iterative. But yes, we do, I would say that for a large part of the traditional, say, BI and insights work, there are more structured processes around that.
Okay. So you're saying that there are structured processes that you've seen. From a software company perspective, Sreevani, what have you seen? Have you seen a lot of structure in there? And I would imagine because you are developing a software at one point, one place. So is that all structured in terms of the data science activities, or it is still that you've got a software company which would ingest data and get a report or an analysis out? How does it work with you, Srivani?
Yeah, like in terms of the process perspective, like earlier, like I couldn't agree more with like what Nidhi has iterated. There is a structured process of like going after any business problem that you want to solve. Like the data science has a specific nuances that it does take a different path, and I think like especially from from earlier days, like the data itself is not that vastly available. So there is an explosion of data that happened. So which has changed the processes in a very different scale and like in a magnitude. So there are, I would attribute that to like 4 different aspects that has changed the entire data science practice itself. Like one is the explosion of data that happened, and then second one is more of a computational power that is available, and the enhanced algorithms that we have. Like right now you don't even have to do the modeling yourself. Like there are like models that are automatically built for you, and then now more collaborative approach that we have seen where somebody develops a solution and that is easily shared across multiple like for other users to leverage. So I think across all of these, the process has become much more robust. I think earlier data science was more of a like experimental like lab kind of an activity. Now it is an integral part of everything that you do. So anything and everything that you come across in your real life has a data science component to it. So I think like just having all of these like 4 elements evolve, it has changed how you approach your like processes. And the modeling itself is inherently wrong, right? Like no model is perfect, and it is as good as the data you have, and as you train with more data it gets more mature. So but the basic processes are the same. Like you have to understand what the business problem is and how you are going to solve it, and how do you either visualize it or the storytell it to ensure that there is corrective business decisions are made.
Okay. Priya, can you hear me? So can you tell us about what you've seen in your organization around the processes? Are they structured, or do you see that they're still hit and trial as we're going through? Priya is frozen again. I think she is frozen. So I think she's having internet issues. Okay. Can't help. So let's go on. Let's move on to the next question. Sorry?
One more thing I'd like to add, which is about the fact that the output of analytics has become so much more available, because earlier it used to be within boundaries, within walls, only the CEO would get to see it, the top execs, and now we want to empower everybody, right? So when you want them to be able to see and ingest but not touch and modify, you need to put a lot more controls up front, so that the sanctity of the data and the models is maintained, and it's not impacted by how a user can either deliberately or by mistake tamper with it. So that also makes it very essential for us to build processes to to control all of that.
Okay. I must say one thing, that when I started my career, it was always about, getting the data and showcasing something. we never started with a business problem in the first place. But what is happening now is that um, we have started looking at a structured process where we have an outcome that we're trying to achieve, and so along with that, it becomes very easy. And it's not as in those days. Can we see if we can get um, Priya? No, we lost her again. Okay. Anyway, but in those days, it was like, I've got data and I want to do something. And analytics or data science was far more than anything, but it was around creating reports. But now, as we see, we're trying to solve problems with the data as it comes in. And I think that is the differentiation over a period of time that we've seen. Okay, if I was to ask you guys one question around the missing ingredient, so if the processes are the way they are, if you were to look, what are the missing ingredients in the current environment that doesn't allow data science project to succeed, or if you had those 2 or 3 steps, additional steps that would make a huge difference, then what would they be? Let's see if I can get Priya back on. Priya, can you hear us now? Priya? Priya, can you hear us?
Yes, finally.
Good stuff.
Yep.
Finally. Good stuff. So we're back with Priya. Thank you. Thank you for all the patience, guys. So Priya, what we were talking about was the approach that organizations follow. So when I started, we used to have a hit and trial method, but now I think what everyone is saying, that there is a structured approach in data science that is being followed. What do you see?
Well, it's definitely better than many years back. There's definitely more structure now. I think there's a lot of community help that's also come in for the various new tools that's in.
So we're losing her.
Maybe if you can turn your camera off while you're speaking so the sound comes through, and then we can either see you or hear you at any given point of time, and not both.
No, we've lost her.
Okay, we've
Anyway,
lost.
so let's wait for her to come back. But anyways,
Yeah.
so I was asking that question around to you guys around the missing ingredient that you see that is having that is having an impact. Let's see if she's back. Technology sometimes fails me. No, I think she's got an internet issue at home. So,
Yeah.
can you hear her or not? No, I
She's
don't.
back, but
But she can't hear us. Okay. So let's go look at that missing ingredient, and I'm conscious of time as well, guys. So, what do you see? What new step in the process that could be added, or what do you think that is missing in your organization that you think could make a huge difference in a data science process aspect of it? So, Nidhi, would you want to start?
sure. So, when you talk about missing aspects, there can be missing elements on the technology side, and there can be missing elements on the human side as well.
Yep.
And if you look at the technology front, there have been more and more products available. If I, as an organization today, have a suite of products that is not really leveraging the entire value chain of products that is available out there, then I'm sort of setting myself up for failures. Well, not really failure, but I'm not optimizing how competitive I can be as compared to others in my space. So my productivity will suffer. I will be resorting to kludgy ways. So for example, if I have a data extraction tool, but to feed it into the next productionalized environment, I need to do some other manual processes in between. Those become missing links, which are missing links for me as an organization. But the solution is available out there somewhere, right? So from the technology front, have I actually do I have the best minds available in my organization to put together the right solution from end to end as much as the ecosystem makes available. So that's one problem. The other problem is, basically human failings, right? It is all the how fallible you are, how your organizational culture is, whether people at the top are bought into data analytics as a way of driving your business, how much you're collaborating and making information available to down to the last level where the people who are actually working on the problem are actually aware of what problem they're trying to solve, right?
Yep.
Because oftentimes they are spending most of their time extracting, cleaning, sorting, and everything. And then the last piece, which is, okay, here it's delivered, but then did it answer the question that was being asked? So that whole ability to create a culture where everyone who's working on a problem is aligned, is aware of what we are trying to drive at. So that becomes, those missing elements are more pertaining to organizational culture, managerial effectiveness, and, the typical, human aspects of running and driving teams together.
Okay. But one thing you mentioned was very interesting. The buy-in from the leadership or buy-in from the senior management. I think that has changed significantly over last quarter of a century. Because when we used to work, when we started, analytics or data science was all about data science, if you use that word, which has just come 5 years ago, was just about reports. But I think there is, as we've got to see a lot many things coming up, there are a lot more people who actually believe in it, and so there is that belief system that has actually had a change at the senior level as well. What do you think, Sreevani, about this?
Yeah, I think you definitely totally agree with you. Earlier, the organizations, mostly the analytic activities or any data related functions, have been under CIOs, right? So there is a chief level, like information officer, who is taking care of that. But there is an increased awareness right now to have CDOs, like, C-level executive who is making data decisions and driving the data initiatives. I think that it gives a lot of leverage to the company to take any data initiatives. So as Nidhi mentioned, there are three different aspects to any success of the project, especially data projects, given that only 15% of the data projects are known to be successful. Remaining 85% fail due to one reason or the other. And we have to flip that equation. That way, there is more buy-in from other companies, leadership to take more initiatives. So there are three ways to tackle it. One is the tools and technologies. I think that is a little bit easier aspect, because tools are constantly evolving. You think about a problem, there is a solution that comes across within few months that you see. And the second aspect is more about the process related, which requires a domain knowledge for an individual to have, and they can drive the specific solution or even identify what is the business problem we are after and how do you articulate, what does that mean in terms of corrective actions, all of that. I think the most difficult part in this is the people readiness aspect of it. People readiness in terms of within the organization and in terms of external as well. Within the organization, you want to make sure your stakeholders are aligned, your leadership is aligned, and not every project is successful, and the organization culture is in such a way that they are willing to take that risk to foster innovation within the organization. And externally, when you put the solution out there, there is an impact to the society and the other people, and whether the society is ready to take it or not, right? For example, self-driving cars, the technology is there for a long time, but is everybody comfortable adopting it? Is I think most of it is more ethical thing to say, hey, what is the right decision to say to take in some instances, whether you save the owner versus you save a pedestrian, right? Those kind of things. So I think out of all of these, the people aspect is the core, and there is a specific the practice to have organizational change management driven. For any data initiative, I think any large initiative should have that. I think that is the most important missing component I see in some of the projects that are struggling.
Okay. Priya, you can hear us?
Yes, finally. I
Brilliant.
think it was the earphone. Sorry.
Okay. We're very good. Good stuff. Thank you very much. Thank you for coming back. And guys, for all the patience. Okay. We have missed you a lot. So let me go back very, very quickly just to fill you up. We talked about the process within an organization, whether it is structured, the data science process that you see, whether it is structured or whether it is still hit and trial. What have you seen in your in the clients that you work with, or even with the organization that you work in?
So, like I said, it was hit and run until quite some time, right? So things have definitely improved. I think the communities today for all the new data science tools is really strong, and a lot of support from those communities is definitely improving it to move from a typical hit and run to at least have the experience of having done this earlier, and how you could wade through situations where your data science models are not necessarily giving you the best output. So I think it's definitely moved ahead from where it was, but I think we are still far from calling it a structured process. I think there's lots to do to get it to a completely process oriented methodology. Yeah.
Okay. That is very good. And you know what? This time you're clearer than everyone else. So well done.
Great. Thank you.
Okay. So let's get to the next section. And this is about skills. And Nidhi, you mentioned about how people are looking at data science. The problem which I have globally, and I have worked in global projects, is that in the last few years, because the word data science came into existence and someone told someone that it will give you a lot of money in salaries, you will get a salary hike. So someone who was doing some reporting at one point in time or business intelligence stuff have now started calling them data scientists. And I'll tell you a very interesting story. I was working for a large organization and they wanted to open up a center of excellence. And they said they want to open a center of excellence. Shelly, to support you, we'll open one in Melbourne. I said, okay, very good. Melbourne is nearby, so that's fine. So I said, but where are you going to get the people in Melbourne? They said, you go to LinkedIn and you type data science and you will find 250,000 people who know data science in Australia. I said, that's not possible. The population of Australia is only 20 million. You mean 1% people know data science? That's huge. But the reality is, then I looked into those CVs that people have changed their titles and they've become data scientists overnight. What do you see in your part of the world, Austin, in US and of course in India? Do you see a lot of people who are faking it and trying to be called data scientists, though they're not, because they were writing some SQL once upon a time, trying to bring some data together, and now they're called data scientists? What do you think? I'll start with Priya this time because we have lost Priya for a while.
Okay. I would completely agree with what you're saying, Shelly. So I definitely think we have a huge gap in the right skill set. And I would attribute it to essentially three reasons. First, I think there's no clarity on what we call as data science today, right?
Absolutely.
So anybody who thinks they can work with data call themselves data science.
Yep.
Second, I think even for those who know how to do a good data modeling, there is a lack of understanding of the business, and there's a lack of understanding of the applicability of the output of these models, right?
Yep.
So unless you get all these three together, each of them in solitude is not going to be of great help, right? So that's the second thing. And thirdly, I must say that data science today as a curriculum, right, in a lot of our educational institutions is a fairly new thing. And at least we've only been able to see data science engineers or those who are interested in data analytics and who come with a proper what do I say, formal education on this only from a couple of institutions. It's a very new field, and it's predominantly thus far run on all the online courses and people who've driven themselves to do it. We don't really have a very well packaged educational curriculum or course in some of the master programs that we should ideally have. So I would essentially attribute the gap today to these three reasons: the lack of clarity of what data science is. Secondly, probably not the best mix of business applicability and data modeling. And thirdly, the lack of a good formal curriculum on data science. Yeah.
Okay. I totally agree with you. I think the definition of a data scientist is still a bit up in the air. And I don't think, if I look at my mind and think about what a data scientist is, I don't think a true data scientist actually exists, because you need someone who could do three things. And these three things are very important. One is be able to write complex SQL or complex code to extract data, being able to write code to create statistical models, understanding what it does and what it means, and also interpreting them, and then taking it to the business and explaining it to them in plain English, where you need your communication skills to be really really
Yeah.
good to be able to do. So one person, I doubt, has all of these skills, and I'm pretty sure, and I have worked at all levels, that every time I try a statistician to extract data, I will struggle, because an IT person could extract the same amount of data in 2 hours, and a statistician will take 2 days. Whereas explaining it to someone can be a big challenge when a data guy goes and explains, or a statistician goes and explains. So I think it's a bit of a mix, and I think that is missing as well. What do you think, Nidhi, about this? You're mute. If not, unmute.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of thoughts about this, because I've been involved in a lot of hiring from campuses, interviewing. We come across many people and how they position themselves through their resumes. And the other word that everyone claims to be an expert at is AI/ML, right? So it was data science, and over the last 1 or 2 years, it's everyone is an AI/ML expert. So I mean, let's give them a bit of a leeway and think of where we come from, right? So if we've been in the industry for 20 years, we grew up in the land of statistics. We knew what statistics was all about. We knew how it evolved. A lot of the youngsters right now, they're growing up in an age where, the way we saw Doordarshan, they have YouTube, they have streaming. So they think AI/ML is basically the generic name for analytics, or for anything to do with data, perhaps. So that can be a concession we make for them, because when I ask somebody, well, what have you done in AI, and they talk about regression, and then you're trying to bifurcate and say, well, what is statistics and what is AI, they falter. So what we're facing now is it is so fast paced. The need of organizations to have certain skills, then which resulted in the educational institutions coming up, which one, they do very good marketing, and so they say data science. You see those posters up everywhere. They want to make a quick buck. The people who sign up for those courses want to quickly get into high income roles as well. And what then gets left out are the fundamentals of how you look at data, how you, the fundamentals of statistics, what is significant, what is not significant, how do you weigh one methodology versus another methodology, is something that, a 6-month or a 1-year course possibly is not able to drill into them. And you're right, we come up with this ideal of a data scientist being someone who can go from A to Z and also be brilliant at storytelling, and that's a unicorn, right? So it's a rare gem that you find who can do all of that. And so yes, there is a huge gap, and we end up saying that our data scientist becomes not one person, but it's a team that we say that, okay, here is my data engineering part of my data scientist team, here is my BI part of my data scientist team. So we sort of do use these kludgy ways of putting this together, because cramming it all into one person has just it's been a hard task for many of us to find that one unique person, and then they will charge a bomb because they know that they are super specialists and they are in demand. So that's been my learning over the course of several years.
Now I'll tell you,
I think-
I'll tell you a couple of stories that come to my mind very well, because when you were talking, it reminded me of something. Last year, I think it was, I was at CIFR in Bangalore, and I was presenting there. And I landed in the night, and in the morning I had a presentation. After the presentation, I walked out. It was at Radisson Blu, and to both of you, if you are in Bangalore, Nidhi, and if you go to Bangalore, Sreevani or Priya, you go to Radisson Blu. Get out of Radisson Blu, and you just look up. There is a wall, and just outside the wall there are banners, and
Yeah.
there are shops. There are little shops, like you can't even get inside them. They're that small, and on top of that, it is written, "Learn blockchain
Yeah.
in 10 days. Learn data science." And I was saying, mate, I am, after that many years of experience, still struggling to understand. And these guys are going to teach in 10 days. This is great. So look how people are being thrown these buzzwords at. And they would charge them in Indian currency, would charge them an arm and a leg for people who don't know anything. And imagine if they were to pay, even say, I would imagine $200-300. That's a lot of money for someone who's just coming out of college and has just paid $3,000, for instance. That's a lot of money for someone to pay that, and that in a small little hole where they're going to teach blockchain. So I think a lot of people are doing a lot of disservice in this area, where they're trying to create that kind of an image on data science can be taught here and data science can be taught there, and this is blockchain and you would learning blockchain from there. I don't know how's that going on.
And which is why when they come into organizations, people come in saying that, oh, I've learned this, that, and the other. But sometimes what we actually need them to do is very basic stuff. I mean, I'm not saying basic because it's simple or not important, but you can't be applying blockchain, AI, ML to each and every process or analytics problem in an organization. So and then it becomes a mismatch of expectations. It is how you get them to have the right expectations. So it's more of a people and a skilling problem, that, okay, let's modify the expectations, but also help you focus to build depth in your skill set, build so that you can have a more fulfilling and rewarding career. Because what you've learned is great, but it might not it's not a straight path to a successful career. You might have to take turns, and it's a zigzag route. And that's where, in organizations, managers who get used to understanding it's more significant role that they need to play to coach a lot of the early talent that we bring in.
Yeah.
And I think
One more story comes to mind, and I was invited to Bangalore and for one of the awards which were given to startups, and I held on they gave away this awards and everything was finished. And I got this guy and said, well, what do you do? He said, I've got an AI company. I said, okay, so what does that AI company do? Oh, we write AI algorithms. I said, mate, when did you invent that term? What is an AI algorithm? Well, I've heard about a statistical model or a kind of a statistical algorithm, but what is an AI algorithm? Explain, enlighten me. And he tried to tell me, and afterwards I realized that he writes a regression model. And so the way they present to the world is also very, very different. And I think that you must be meeting all these companies coming into you, trying to pitch you something which you realize, oh yeah, he doesn't know what he's talking about. So you would find all of those things, and that's also doing a lot of disservice to the industry.
Yeah. I think, yeah, I have seen the similar terms, like even the students that are coming from the computer science background, once they join the workforce, the first expectation is they should be
Sreevani,
Sreevani.
what happened? Even US has technical issues. I thought it was only India. Okay, so she's frozen. Priya, do you want to add something to that? Priya, can you hear us? Still? Priya? No, Priya can't hear us,
Priya,
right?
I do see.
I don't think I got your question right.
Oh, okay. Okay. So I just said, do you want to add something to what Nidhi was saying? Okay. Let's
No.
move on.
No, again, I didn't get the question, but please carry on. Please carry on.
So,
Okay. I think Sreevani will join us. So, but one question that comes to mind, and you three leaders are in data science, well, at least you two are in data science for a while. Why do you think there are so less women in data science, the field itself? Because, what I'm doing, I'm trying to run this show, and so I have to reach out to all these ladies who do data science, and what I find out is that there are not many women in the data science field. Why do you see that? Priya, can you hear us? Priya? Priya, could you hear us?
Yeah, I'll take that. Yeah. No, I can hear you. I can hear
Yeah.
you.
So I was asking, why are there so few women in data science?
I don't think this is anything unique to data science or analytics and women. I think it is a fairly common problem across all tech industries. So, like everywhere else, women are far fewer in this space as well, and more so in leadership. I think we're talking about numbers not more than a single digit at any point in time, right? So it's fairly similar issues. I don't think there's anything unique to data analytics, and therefore a lower contribution of women in leadership. But having said that, I think a lot of organizations are doing their bit. So they're making it women familiar in middle management or senior middle to groom them. They are having mentorship programs. They are, trying to maybe prefer women over men when you're on par. And there are several such initiatives going on. I think also a lot of initiatives from the end of giving them a better work-life balance, more flexibility in working from home, and so on and so forth. But I think the bigger change or a more quantum jump on getting women in more senior leadership can happen only when there's a drastic change in the society, the culture, and the way we bring up our next generations. I don't think it's something that can happen overnight with organizational intervention. And again, this has to be not just for women being brought up, but also men. How do you make them, realize that you need to how do be empathetic to that a woman has to face as compared to men, and have that inclusive thought. I think will come in some time, but it's definitely taking longer than what would have been preferred. But I'm sure we'll get there somewhere. And thirdly, I think
We've lost. I think we're losing.
it's a little more of a men, a little I think you need to push yourself.
Totally understand. So let's get to Sreevani.
Not sure if you got the entire.
You there, Sreevani? Can you hear us?
Yeah.
We got the last bit.
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Okay.
Yeah, we can hear you, Sreevani.
Okay, so I was asking, why are there so few women in data science or in the data field? What do you see in the US? Is that similar to what is in India, or is it that in the US is a different story than that is in India or in other parts of the world?
Yeah, I see the same trend. In US, like not just the data science, like overall in the STEM career, like science, technology, like all of it. I see the number of like women in that is very low, and there are a couple of things that I attribute to that, right? Like the one is like at a high level, not just a STEM field, but overall in a career side, historically women are not looked up as breadwinners of the family, so they're not in the workforce as like men are. And then the other thing is about the social responsibility that they have, like which kind of impacts their like working ability a little bit. But if you are talking very specifically about the data science, we see the data science lacks clarity on what it means. It seems very abstract on what it is, and a lot of educational institutions indicate like the train students on very theoretical approach, not really connecting it to the practical aspect of it. And I think it is same for both women and men, but given women are more perfectionist, like, and I don't want to do a gender stereotype here, but inherently they're less risk takers. Like they want to make sure they know absolutely on what they're getting into before they take it up. I think that is probably one of the reasons like why there are less women in data science. I think the educational agencies need to do like more practical aspect of education and give more clarity on the role itself and what is expected, and those details. I think that will definitely help.
Okay, Nidhi, what do you think? What have you seen in your organization and at a senior level? How do you encourage more women in your organization to drive through the data science agenda?
So I agree with Priya. Actually, the percentages that we see here are no different from what is seen in technology overall. And how to try and increase the numbers. I think everyone tries to start from the source. So we are trying to widen the pipeline, but in most sectors you do see that at the base of the pyramid there is almost a 50-50 representation, and it is as you go up that people start opting out. And so there our emphasis is to ensure that we are aware of the personal situations of a lot of our women team members who are, say, first-time managers, or who have significant life events where we are supporting them in how they are able to come back into the workforce, and offer that flexibility to them to continue and continue to manage their teams and grow. So that's sort of been one of the approaches. The other thing which I think increasingly, because it is becoming so tech heavy, I get the sense that people tend to veer towards an engineering degree for data science. And at least in India, we really are very regimented in our screening of resumes. Engineer hai ki nahi, have they done the same kind of work or not? Whereas in the US, I felt that there is a lot more openness to experiment. I mean, I had a manager who did political science and then moved into the technology domain and was heading a professional services organization for analytics delivery. So some of these journeys are, we create these walls in our education system, which I think we need to open up to allow people to move across, because there is, we talk about data science, but there is also an art to data science. And now, as we see a lot of, cognitive sciences moving into analytics, that should give some opportunities to women who are very strong on those social sciences to come into that this amalgamation that is needed to take data science forward. So that's one of the perspectives. I think more and more of the tools, the grab and go tools, will make it easier for people who are uncomfortable with the coding aspect of things to still be able to do the insights and impact part of the analytics value chain, even though they might not be really heavy on the data engineering side. So there are a lot of ways to explore, but how concerted an effort does an organization put in to craft those roles? I think there is a lot more that can be done. And as Priya also mentioned, there is a whole cultural overlay. It's nuances for a woman with kids are very similar in the US and in India. Nuances prior to that are different. I think in India there is thankfully still, parents will still push their children, whether a boy or a girl, to take on science. And girls who are good at science are well regarded, and they get a lot of these kudos in school as well. Whereas my sense from having lived in the US is that the whole nerd and geek is something that girls might not want to get associated with, and others have to really feel comfortable in their skin to identify themselves as a STEM girl. So there, I feel as a culture we are stronger, but then we have a whole different set of things once marriage and kids and all of that comes in.
Okay, that's a good point. One question that comes to mind is around the fact that, and I think, Nidhi, you may have a point of view on that, and even Priya and Sreevani, if you want to go ahead. As a data scientist, when you look at women and men, do they have a different approaches, or is that doesn't matter? Gender doesn't matter. It's the same approach that people follow, whether they're a male or a female. What do you think? Have you ever thought about that? That you gave a problem and someone came, let's look outside of the box, or is it purely on an individual point of view? What do you think, Nidhi?
Yeah, you put me in a spot there.
That is very great. Priya, can you hear us? Priya's frozen. So we lost
I,
this. Yep.
yeah, I can go. I think
Yep.
like from my perspective, I have seen this very like an individual and personal based, right? Like not um, gender being like biased in terms of how they approach solving the problem itself. However, I think like as I mentioned previously, like women tend to do a little bit more thorough job before they can socialize, like the risk awareness like is there a little bit. So I think in terms of when they socialize, like the outcome of their work might vary a little bit, but the approach itself, I don't think so. The approach varies based on the gender. It is more of an individual style. What I
Yeah, I mean, I think a woman could be more collaborative, but again, I don't want to stereotype. There are times when people tell me that I brought a different approach to a problem, and I find that surprising because I don't sense that, it was unique or different in any way. But yeah, it all depends on the individual and how they've been trained. Either, it's a lot of things go into it. It's, how rigorous you are, your values in terms of how you look at working in a team, all of those things.
Okay. Priya, what do you think? Is there a different approach in how a man looks at a data science problem to a woman, or is it individual based? What do you think?
I don't know if we look at it differently, but I think it always helps to get a different perspective, and it could be gender, it could be the culture, it could be where you come from. So I think each of us have a different perspective problem, given our experiences, given our background. So maybe gender is also one of it. I wouldn't say we're completely different in what we bring to the table, or
Yep.
that it's a completely new perspective. But I guess it's always good to have that diversity, and maybe there's enough research and theory to prove this, but I've not seen it in person. But I genuinely believe it's good to have diversity from, not just a gender point of view, but from across various other aspects as well.
Okay, so we've lost Sreevani this time, I think. But anyways, let's go to the success stories point of view part. Have we lost her? Yeah, it looks like we lost her. Okay, so one, have you lost Priya too? Hi, Priya. Okay. I can't hear you there.
Yeah,
I can hear
she's
you.
there.
I can hear you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So let's get to the success stories point of view, part of the business. So tell us one success story that you think made a data science specific story that you think made a huge difference to the organization. Maybe your a story or a project that you delivered made a huge difference, or you've seen or read somewhere. Go for it. It's up to you to decide which success story do you think you want to share. But share a success story with the audience, because I personally feel that these are the success stories that drive the data science field. For example, in good old days, data mining was more popular because of the nappies and the Huggies and the nappy story, the Huggy and the beer story, nappy and the beer story. If that was not there, it would have been very difficult for people to understand that what you can do with the data. So, is there any one success story that comes to your mind that you think can make a huge difference, and you want to share with the audience? And I'll go with Priya this time. Priya, do you want to go?
Sure.
Priya? Mm.
Yeah, sure. I'll go ahead. Yep. So it's not a I wouldn't say this is a incident of showing out a great modeling outcome that changed the fortunes for the company, but I think this is something that we did for one of the largest CPG organizations in a baby care category, and we were doing work for them at an APAC, all countries within the APAC region. So very okay. So this was on digital marketing analytics that we were doing for them. Very simple outcome. about how you could improve on their SEM optimization, and also how you could do your digital marketing better. So this was what the project was about. And I think a very, very simple kind of identification of probable ways in which they could optimize their marketing and marketing spends, and how they could reduce their spends, and how they were probably using it very ineffectively on certain keywords or certain other websites, or even in terms of targeting. I think was a huge saving for the organization. So this is not to say that this is a thodu stuff that we did, or something very rare. But I think there are organizations of all kinds, and people at different maturity levels as well, right? So even small things like this, where we could bring about a change in the way they did digital marketing, or how they would target their audience, or how they could use the right keywords for bidding, and so on and so forth, we could bring about almost a 20 to 30% saving in their digital spends. So what I wanted to bring out here is that the so-called success stories could be even small things like this, right? And entirely depends on where the client organization is, and what level of maturity they are in at this point in time. So we could do a good job, at least the way this is how we started off with them. And of course, we went ahead to do several other advanced analytics work with them. We've been on their vendor list for the digital analytics for a good 3.5-4 years, and I think we're still on it. So I think that's what I would see as success, because we've been able to bring value to the client, and move the client from the very fundamental small shifts to we've carried them forward now to do predictive analytics as well. So for me, success is about how long your association with the client has lasted, and I think that's something that's panned out well for us. Yeah.
So what you explained to me was a level below the market mix modeling or market return on investment. You're talking about a level below that, where you were looking at the search engine, the keyword for the search engine that could get you more benefit, or were you looking at the kind of ads that they were running? So what level was that?
So we're talking about an organization which is very keen to get into analytics, and across all functional areas and across all department. You have a team in place, but you probably don't have your basics right. We're talking about an organization where the fundamentals are yet to be in place before you start looking at your advanced and predictive and forecast led analytics, right? So I guess it's about getting your basics right, and going back to your fundamentals. I guess that's what the difference was. Yeah.
Okay. Sreevani, can you hear us? You there? No, she's frozen. Okay. Nidhi, you've got any success story to share?
Sure, yeah. So, again, as Priya said, this is something that is simple. It is in the social media space. And the part I'd like to highlight is how, it is critical for something to be a success. It's critical as to how it gets embraced by the business, to take it forward and then connect with the end user or the customer, right? Because a great data science recommendation or an outcome, so if it has no impact, then it's pointless. So this is from, in Dell, and Dell is one of the companies that has been at the forefront of social media engagement with the customer. And we had been involved in doing a lot of customer resolution out of the in the India sites, and we stepped into doing social media based resolution. And we said, well, people are reaching out to us on Twitter, they're reaching out to us on Facebook with complaints, and we have a whole database of the incoming call center related logs as to what are the issues they're calling us with. So what we undertook was, and this is when YouTube was just spiking and becoming a very popular mode of consumption for people. So we said, instead of being reactive, can we change and become a lot more proactive and put the answer in the hands of our customers? And it helps a lot in terms of call reduction. So we reduce costs a lot in those terms. Customer experience also gets impacted because they don't have to be calling in and waiting for minutes on the call. So we extracted a lot of these the reasons why customers were calling us. We did a simple analysis of what are the top 20 reasons, and that can be easy enough for a customer to for self-help. And then we took that and then we created videos around them. We put them up on YouTube, and we were measuring a lot of the views, the downloads, and then tracking the incoming calls and how some of those changed as a result. And this entire process where again there were pieces that were manual in between because we were not able to measure our turnaround time, and that led us to actually bring in Sprinkler into the organization. We started using them to start measuring our SLAs. It helps to further refine the data that we were using. So it became easier to start tracking our SLAs and the reasons why people were reaching out to us. And eventually we ended up being given the mandate to set up a social media command center out of the Bangalore office. So that was like a 2-year journey that we went on. And we're helping the customers, and as an organization or an entity where we were an offshore center, we helped to really showcase that we had the capability to drive a lot of this out of our offices here.
Okay, so when you say you did a lot of customer assessment, were you doing text mining at the back or trying to understand the keywords and key phrases? As you mentioned, word cloud, which I don't know how to use and why should we even have it, but was it around that, or was it even more sophisticated of understanding the impact of a customer's comment to the impact onto the bottom line of the organization? So what was going on?
Yeah, so I mean, we couldn't get to the bottom line as such, but the various variables around customer experience, which is so the text mining, was more to filter out what are the reasons they are calling us with. The time to resolution that it takes when somebody calls us, the number of calls that it took to completely resolve a problem. So did they have to call in 4 times or 5 times? So all of those factors taken in to determine what are the more, and then the ease of resolving, right? So if it is something that really needs a lot of call time for an agent to sit and walk them through something, then that's not an easy video for us to create. So if that is the purpose, then how do you define the variables that lead us to the top 10 or 15 issues that one can create a simple video around?
Okay. So let's quickly, Sreevani, do you have you're now live, I can see you. You were frozen a minute ago. So
Yes.
Any use case or case study or success story that you would like to share with the audience that actually you've seen in the market that you think was a huge impact, where you were involved or not involved, doesn't matter.
Yeah, this is one of the a client I was personally helping with. It is about improving the customer experience based on the customer information. So this is Fortune 100 companies. There are a lot of data sources or touch points for the customer to get their information. So
a customer by themselves can identify them differently, right? Like, I go by Sri or Sreevani or whatever it is. So there are variations in the way you identify yourself. And also the personal identifying information, like your address and then the phone numbers could have changed. So there are a lot of different aspects that would they can differ, like while you're connecting with the same company from a different organizations. So I'm typically talking about like the mastering solution where you can identify who is a customer that's contacting you. But in addition to that, you're also establishing relations with other systems and get a 360 view of that particular customer. And now you have a holistic picture of how he's interacting with the organization. And when you keep everyone else's information into the mix, then you are able to get a lot more insights. Initially, you're treating them as a segment of one to give a very personalized like an experience to them. And in addition, you have seen a trend of, you get two consecutive call center calls with complaining about something, then the trend, like where it is headed. So proactively you take the measures to call them out, find out the issue, and then improve the customer satisfaction and retain your customer base itself. I think that has been very instrumental in getting the whole model work. This is about 1/3 of the US population are the customers for this company, and we are able to do great in analyzing their interactions within the organization and how proactively we market to them or how proactively we increase their satisfaction experience.
Okay, good stuff. We've got Priya back. Today has been a nightmare with all the internet dropping out. I think it's a general phenomenon, and from India point of view, I think you get a Rafale, but you can't get a bloody internet right. Is a big issue.
But I'm good. I'm here in Bangalore.
Yeah, you're in Bangalore. Absolutely fine. I think it is Delhi and Austin which is having a problem.
Actually, it never happened to me. Don't know why. The internet is totally down. I'm joining in with my phone now.
Okay. Okay, very quickly, final question to you guys, and then we'll go to question and answers from the audience. Guys, if you're watching this show and you've got a question, please put that in the comment section and I'll take that up very, very soon. So the last question from me, where do you see all this going? How do you envisage data science to progress within next 5 years? Let's take only next 4 to 5 years. Where do you see all of that going? And Priya, can you start if you're there? Priya is frozen again. So, Sreevani, where do you see it going?
I think data science would become an integral part of everything that you do, right? So everything is about data points. Everything comes up to be a sensors within within the instrument for you to measure what is happening, and the data is constantly collected, analyzed. Insights are drawn and the corrective action is taken. For example, you can remotely control your doors, windows, your curtains and all of that right now, and you can clean your floors, you can make your bread automatically, everything like that. So there is no differentiation between how far it can penetrate. I think everywhere and anywhere you will see the data science and ML all of that playing a role. And how people are able to adopt it and how comfortable they are is where it is. And especially for me, I have a Tesla, and when initially I got it, I was very skeptical about going in the auto drive mode. Not sure whether I can trust myself going on an auto drive mode. However, felt comfortable after a couple of times, right? So I typically when I go to the long drive, I usually just drive in the auto drive. So I think that is going to come up pretty soon. I think though
only thing would be more ethical and more policy that would block some of these rollout or adoption. But everyone acknowledges that, and there are policies that are being made. I think it is going to be an integral part of everything that we do.
Priya, where do you see all this going? Can you hear us, Priya? No. So it's a bad time in Delhi. It looks like that they need to fix the internet first. Priya, can you hear us? You just moved.
Yeah.
No. Nidhi, what do you think?
Yeah.
And we have time. So let's quickly go. Where is it all going in
Sure.
the next 4 or 5 years?
So three things, and they all start with D, right? So one is digitization. With COVID, people are attributing, COVID as the main reason behind the huge digitization that firms are embarking upon, because they just have to do it. Many things that we thought would never happen for 5 years are happening right now within our company. So digitization will mean more data, more need and desire to explore the data. And so that's like 2 or 3 thumbs up for data science. Second thing is the democratization of data. So the availability and how it is getting embedded more and more within all the businesses and being used in decision making will mean that this will spread across all the business. It cannot be contained in one silo. Yes, right now you can say that, okay, let me corral AI, ML, and then see what this beast is all about before I let it loose. But the earlier processes and procedures are being let loose across the organization. So democratization of data and data science. And the third thing I would say is more a definition of the standards. And this is more where we talk about skills and for people who want to, become data scientists, because, you have cybersecurity certifications, you have project management certifications, but we don't really have the standards that say that, okay, if you are X, then that means I can be assured that this is your capability as a data scientist. If you're Y, this means something different about you. And so I would hope for, and I anticipate that a lot of this definition of the standards in data science should come about over the next 5 years.
Good. Before I get to the questions, I was just looking at one thing. During the entire episode, we had so many dropouts. I can't count. This was one of the shows where we have got the maximum dropouts. But one thing is consistent. Number of viewers in this entire episode has not gone down below 30. So we've got at any given point in time more than 30 and around about 70 people watching us, even if we're dropping out and coming in and we're trying to make it all work together. So the audience, actually, I really am amazed with the audience today, and they're really great. So thank you very much, guys. Let me get to the question and answers, and I think we've again lost Priya. So let's start with the questions. Audience questions, guys. The first question comes from Rahul Rudra on Facebook. So Rahul, hi Rahul, how are you? If you're watching, thank you for sticking around. And the first question is, ma'am, I'm currently pursuing BTech degree, so I need MTech to get data science job. Again, what are the skills needed for the profession? Nidhi, you want to have a go at that?
Sure. So Rahul, we hire a lot of BTech folks as well for data science roles. And, if you're certain that you want to go ahead with MTech right away, then, you have the freedom to do so. But I would even encourage that if you can do an internship or even get into an organization that allows you to experiment with what data science is all about, because it's become, there are so many different aspects to it, right? So the coding requirements, the BI aspect, the statistics, the modeling, I think when you get exposure to that entire value chain in an organization, it will help you to understand more what you're looking for out of a master's degree, and you can be a lot more focused when you go into that.
Sreevani, do you want to add to that, or you're fine?
I think I totally agree. Having a
an exposure into the working of the entire value chain end to end gives a very good perspective on like how it directly relates to the real world, and helps you focus better and follow the curriculum.
Okay. I think what I have to do is, and I'm asked this question almost in every episode, I am going to create a video just for that. So for beginners, what to do to get into the data science field. So I think that's on me as well, because this question comes almost every show. Okay. Next question. No, it's not a question. It's a comment from Vishal Verma. Hi Vishal, how are you? On Facebook says, hello, good morning to you all. So hopefully I'm expecting him to be from India. Next comment or question comes from Swagata Maiti. Hi Swagata, how are you? He says, do you guys believe in India we are still lacking resources with proper data science skills? And how do you think that can be recovered? Your thoughts on this? Nidhi, you want to go?
Sure. So, well, it is widely acknowledged that India is the destination for data science. There is also obviously the US and the Silicon Valley and all of that, but hiring somebody over there is, you have to pay the big bucks. Everyone wants to go to a Facebook and a Google and all of that, and not all companies can afford that. So many companies are looking to set up their data science capabilities in India. So we have all proven that, it is an industry that's 20 years strong over here. Now, when we talk about what is lacking in terms of skill set, I think that is the gap we talk about between what our education system produces as our graduate output and what is needed by organizations to actually work on hands-on. And that's the skill gap that we talk about. Increasingly, companies are integrating a lot more with educational institutions to start conducting lectures, taking on not just one, but a series of lectures to actually train people. And this could be training them in the domain. So maybe if I want people to understand what commercial real estate is all about, as an organization, I will connect a lot more with the educational and academic fraternity to do that. So I will say, yes, there is a skill gap. We do lack certain resources. We are working towards bridging that more and more. But I think the resilience of the India talent pool is definitely there. We need to keep on the focus on building the right skills so that it's not just, as we were talking about, a 6-month course and we think that we have a degree and we are data scientists. That's what we need to be addressing, that it's not really that. And how do we build true data scientists or true mini data scientists?
I think this question got me thinking, and I think there are two things more that we can do in India. I've got my whole education out in India, and I've experienced past 20 years overseas. And what I see is that in India, we need more ISIs. I think, I'll tell you, long time ago when I was a kid, one girl in my building got to ISI, and I didn't understand what ISI would mean. It's not ISIS, Indian Institute of Statistics.
Indian Statistical Institute, yeah.
Yeah, and she got there, and I was like, "What does a statistician do?" I think we need to have more and more of such organizations which teach statistics at the core. I remember I was talking to Dr. Karandikar way back in 1996, and he started coming on TV, and I was very proud I could see him on TV. But imagine those kind of people who've actually built. We could leverage a lot from them and utilize that. And second is that we don't train our people to be good presenters. The communication skills are really, really missing in India, and I see that all the time. I used to have clients. I used to have clients here which we used to service, and I used to say that don't ask the guy in India to write anything for you. You write it here, because they will write too much, and will mean nothing. So I think we need to also work on the communication aspect of people, how they communicate through a presentation or not, I don't know, but the way they communicate with the business, I think that is another thing that is very, very missing in India. I think these two things, if we work on, we would be very good. I've got no questions about people writing SQL or people writing code to get data. IT component, we're all safe. But I think these are the two components where we can do better and we can actually make a huge difference to the world, in other words, because I don't think any other country has that statistical mind that we have. And one thing that works in our favor, and I'll tell you very, very, this is what I learned. One thing that works in our favor, we are not structured. In India, we're not taught structure. We're not structured. And I have a huge problem at home because my daughters are very structured. They study here. They're very structured. I'm not. And I think that works in our favor because for analytics or data science, you have to be not following the process. You have to be unstructured so that you can learn more. You can find out what you can't see with your naked eye. And I think that works in our favor too. So sometimes things get into your favor, get to your favor just because they are so. So I think we can do a lot if we get that statistics point of view right. Okay, let me get to the next question. Otherwise, I can have a session on this itself. Okay, so the Swain says, I think it provides all. I don't know what that means. Very good one. Smriti Pandey Mishra says, excellent points, Nidhi. So Nidhi, hi Smita, how are you?
Thank you.
Okay, on LinkedIn, Santosh Francis, hi Santosh, how are you? He says connectivity is a spoiled sport today. I totally agree. Today is the first time we've had that many dropouts, and ultimately we lost Priya. Yeah. Okay, next. This question is for Priya, but if anyone wants to take it, Sarabjit Johal from Twitter asks, how is success counted as how long you have been engaged with the client? That's a good one. So because Priya mentioned that we were with the client for a longer period of time, so how do you count this as success? Anyone wants to explain that?
And I know Sreevani can also share that from her perspective as founder of a company. It's, people will stick with you if you've shown that you add value to them, right?
Absolutely.
And if I am a vendor and a third party service provider, which is, if I were to be in an Infosys or anyone, I get in the door because of my promise, because of my cause. Because I'm able to claim certain knowledge, best practices that I have deployed elsewhere. But then you have to show what you're capable of doing once you get in the door. And it's very easy for an organization to figure out whether you're doing everything that you promised you could do for them. Because otherwise you'll be out the door and another vendor will be in.
Yeah, I think ultimately the success of you, it depends on the success of the client. Like, as long as you keep that in focus, I think it is not a transactional relationship that you're trying to build with a client. Like, it is more very involved, relationship that you want to build with them. And understand the business problem. I think you can do any project in a short duration of time, but if there is no true value being delivered, and as a consulting company, people engage us because of our experience with other clients and what we can bring to the table. It's not about the solution that you provide, but it's about the right questions that you can ask the client, right? So as long as you know the right questions to ask and right strategy and invest in getting the solution done, I think they're going to be with you, and that defines the success for sure.
Perfect. Thank you, guys, for that answer. And I really appreciate the fact that, success is counted for how long you're engaged with the client. I've had a client who I know for the past 10, 15 years, 10, 12 years actually. And I think that was a huge, and over the period of time, they've given me around about 20, $25 million worth of business. I'll go back to one more comment, and this is a personal experience. I was a SaaS person when I started my career, and I am a SaaS person till date. SaaS, in fact, I started SaaS Institute in India way back in '96. I came to Australia and SaaS didn't hire me, but I'm still a SaaS person. So you know how much business I've given to SaaS? Now that is the relationship I've had with SaaS. So I've signed checks for SaaS for more than $12-13 million. Just so that is how the success is counted, as I have been engaged with the client for such a long time. Oh, not a client, they're my vendor. So if you look at that, this is how the world works. Anyways.
And I think this is also a place where it rests a lot with the individual, because you want to set up the organization and the processes to continue to deliver that impact. But in the end, the client or the CEO or whoever you're serving will end up trusting that one individual that represents you. And because you know that, okay, this guy knows what my, what keeps me awake at night, and is there to help me address those things. And very often you see that when that person leaves, sometimes the whole engagement moves with that person, because the trust is there with the individual a lot more perhaps than the process that the person built, or maybe the process starts falling apart. So, in the end, I firmly believe that with all the automation and everything that comes about, a lot of it is human, and the trust element, and what you put into the relationship and your work.
Okay. Very quickly, 2 more questions, and this is a huge one. Saurabh Sharma. Hi, Saurabh. How are you? He says, "Hi, Shelly. Hi, everyone. Again, Nidhi ma'am, putting you on spot. You mentioned an incident of a guy exaggerating as AI expert or ML expert. How would a fresher candidate who just passed out project itself as data analyst, data scientist, ML engineer, or even business analyst? Secondly, how would the same candidate can profess that he's great at ML for business and should be considered at Wells Fargo?" Okay. Please take me as an example as passing out this year with BTech CSC 6 months internship at so. We've lost Nidhi, is it?
Looks like it.
That was a question for Nidhi.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah.
But we can't see you.
Yeah, sorry. Okay, that was a call coming in. I'm not sure why my camera isn't working. Because I also need to head out to another meeting after this, but I will answer this question. So, Saurabh, this is nothing very complicated, because if you have worked and you say on your resume that you have worked on AI ML, you will be asked, okay, describe your AI project to me. What did you do in this? And as you walk through it, somebody who is able to decipher, well, is this basic statistics? Is it logistic regression you did? Or is it, neural networks or whatever? Then they will be able to identify your level of skills. What is important is that, from what you've studied and what you project, to be transparent about it, but at the same time to focus on understanding of the fundamentals, right? So how did this whole area evolve? What is the scope of statistics? How did other techniques take stats forward? What does vector analysis allow you to do? What do neural networks allow you to do? So what are the incremental things that got built upon over the way? And what is AI ML all about? And just knowing that, even theoretically knowing what are the distinctions, at least will give me the sense that you've tried to do your homework, and you're not passing something off assuming that I will just believe you because you say so.
Okay, good stuff. Thank you, Nidhi, for that. And I think you're not there. You're not. You have to go. Okay, so that's fine. Thank you very much, Nidhi. Really loved you having on the show, and yours was the only connection that didn't drop during the day, but finally it just stopped. So, anyways, that's fine. Thank you very much for your time, Nidhi, and we'll speak to you later.
Thank you. Thank you, Shelly. And thank you, Sreevani. Is it okay if I leave now?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. All right.
So if you want to go, you can. Good
Thank
stuff.
you. Thank you so much. Yep. Bye. Bye.
Great.
Thanks, bye.
Bye.
So that was Nidhi, and we left with Sreevani. So Sreevani, thank you very much for your time. And there is one question, but this is actually pointed to me. Let me take that very quickly. Neha Sharma, and she asks, how will I collaborate to data science as I am into SAP material management? How will it help me in enhancing my skills? So Neha, one thing very clearly, that when you're doing material management, you need to understand the concept, the whole aspect of material management end to end. If you understand that, then that is a very good start from a business domain perspective, because that will help you to define data science as a form which you can use to optimize. Data science is about optimizing things. Whether you optimize your optimize to reduce cost, or optimize to reduce improve a process, or you optimize to increase anything, or increase revenue, or bring in more revenue. So but for that you need to understand, you need to have a domain knowledge, and if you have that, then it is a very good and easy process. So if you understand, as part of material management in SAP, if you understand the process, then that will really help you to get to the data science aspect of it. So yeah, that's what I say, and take it from there. So thank you for asking that question. Okay, so Sreevani, thank you very much for your time, and I know it's 2 a.m., possibly more than that. Thank you for the time, and it was a pleasure having you on the show.
Yeah, definitely. Really enjoyed having this conversation, and then very good discussion overall.
Thank you.
Thank you for arranging. Yep.
Thank you. So guys, thank you very much for watching. As I said, today we hit 50 likes, even though we had a lot of dropouts, and I'm telling you, it wasn't deliberate, and I'm so grateful to the guests. They tried to keep coming back. In fact, Priya tried, I think, more than 20 times to keep coming back, and she was dropping out and she was coming back. This shows the kind of dedication these women have on for the subject data science. So thank you very much for watching this. And if you've got any questions, please put them in the comment section, and I will definitely take them in the next show, or even answer them directly. If you want to reach out to me, please write to me or connect to me through any of these channels, on Twitter, on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on wherever you can. And if you get back to me, I'll be more than happy to answer your questions, if you have any on data science. So thank you very much for your time, and I'll come back to you next week. I think I'm coming back on Tuesday with the AI Startup Insight series. That'll be same time on Tuesday. So thank you very much for your time today. It was a pleasure having you all. Thank you very much. Bye now.